Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Rundown. I'm Sunny Gold, I'm a messenger with United Network News, and we are the official news channel for CARE, the Center for Amity and Restoration of Earth. And we are all about the real news, because believe it or not, when you try to turn on the news nowadays, what you're going to get is a lot of narrative. No more news. They replace the news with narratives, and it is whatever agenda they want to promote. And it has never been more obvious than it is today. And even if you try to break away from mainstream media and you find some what we call alternative media channels, those are also controlled for the most part. At least the really popular ones are controlled. And it's to make you think that you are getting the truth because you know something's wrong with mainstream. So you go over to alternative media and then you eventually find out that they're lying too. It's just a different story, but everything is controlled. But not us, not us. We've got a newscast that is released through our online distribution platform at unitednetwork.tv. Our newscast comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And for the most part, we do a podcast each of those days, unless we do not have a world situation report. If you want more information, though, on getting access to all of the content that we produce, you can visit unitednetwork.tv. Now, for this podcast, it's called The Rundown because we run down some of the stories we talk about on the news. It is not a complete newscast. It does not replace our newscast, but our newscast is behind a paywall. And that's because we have to keep the lights on. But there's important information that people need to know. And that's why this podcast is what it is. That's why we created it. That's how you're listening to it right now. We cover all sorts of stories. We have local stories that come from our field messengers. We have stories about what we call the new Earth, which is this huge transition that our planet is going through right now. And things are going to drastically change for the better for humanity. I know you hear gloom and doom everywhere else, but you are not going to hear that now, at least not from us, okay? We have regional stories, which are some headlines that you may have heard in the media, but we always take the perspective of how this impacts the people. We don't care what governments are doing. We have tried to work with governments in the past, and they are just, again, they have their own agenda. They have their marching orders that somebody gave them, and they are just walking themselves off a cliff right now, and we are not joining them. So we have a completely different plan, and our plan is the restoration of our planet. And the final thing that we have, in addition to those regional stories, is our world situation report. And Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian joins us for that. And I try to include a couple sound bites in this podcast from our world situation report. And I have that today. We've got some cool stuff that we talked about on today's newscast. And you may be wondering, how do they know this stuff? Because we make some really bold claims on this show. Not too long ago, a few weeks back, we had a short viral video. We didn't intend for it to be a viral video, but it just turned into one, I think over 3 million views or something like that. I've lost track. But it was about what these operatives needed to do in order for us, meaning, Kim from the Office of the Guardian, to fund the government. What needed to happen? And one of the things that needed to happen was they have to announce that Trump is dead. He has been dead for a while now, over a year. And what you have been seeing are people in masks, and they've been taking a lot of money from the public, and now they're trying to get him, in the presidency again, which, gosh, the guy's gone. He's gone, guys. So anyway, we say some pretty bold things, and we stand by what we say. We give you the truth. The truth is not always a pretty thing, and I'm sorry for that, but it's best that you have the right information so you can make smart choices moving forward. Because like I said, our whole planet is changing right now. So you need to know what's going on. And the stuff we say may be surprising. A lot of you listening now may be like, Trump's dead? What? Yeah, Donald Trump is dead. Sorry. He wasn't a good guy. I don't care what they said about him in the media. A lot of people in the media didn't like him, but not really for the right reasons, right? And they're all kind of part of the same club. And Donald Trump was not a good person. And so all politicians have something, right? They're all, like I said, they're all kind of part of the same club. But if we say something to you that is like shocking, which may happen, happens quite a bit on this show, I encourage you to still stick with us. Don't lump us in the crazy category yet, because we are really giving you the truth, and we've got access to the highest security clearance on the planet. That's how we know what we know, and it's called the Alpha system. And so I also encourage you guys to do your own research. Don't just believe anybody because they tell you something. Like, do a little bit of digging. There is still information on the internet about a lot of the stuff that we talk about. Yeah, the internet's been scrubbed, and I wouldn't use the one search engine that, starts with a G and ends with an oogle. But, there's other, browsers out there and things that you can use to really get some good information. Always think critically. Always ask questions. And as I always say on this show, you have a built-in lie detector in your body. It is called discernment. And God/source/the creator of the universe gave you that. And it's getting stronger and stronger every day. It's been suppressed for a while, but it is getting stronger. So please use it. And don't think, if you come to the table thinking you know everything, you're not going to learn a thing. You are going to, not even listen, really. Everything's going to, go right past you, and you're going to think that you're Mr. or Mrs. Know-It-All. And, well, that can't be because I heard da-da-da-da-da. You have to come with what we call an empty cup. That is how you truly learn. And, I lump myself in that category too. I had the same thing happen. For years, I wanted to know the truth, but didn't really want to know the truth in some aspects. And it wasn't until I completely emptied my cup and I said, you know what, God, whatever the truth is, I don't care what it is. I just want to know what the truth is. Please tell me the truth. Please guide me in that way. And that's when I started working with UNN. So I'm living proof, guys, living proof. So let's go ahead and get started with our rundown today. This is the rundown for Wednesday, December 13th, 2023. All right, let's kick things off with our field messenger reports. If you have never heard of field messengers before, these are kind of like citizen journalists, but you don't need any experience. These are really just people that are passionate about wanting to change the planet, about telling the truth about what's happening in their area. And they don't have any, special equipment or anything like that. They have their smartphones and they go out and they tell us what's happening in their area. If you want more information on how to become a field messenger, you can go to unitednetwork.news. And then in the main navigation, there's a section for field messengers, and we've got different examples and Q&A, all that good stuff. So you can check that out there. Our first story comes from Amy in New Jersey. Amy's been reporting a lot, which is awesome. And she gives us a tour of a wastewater treatment facility in her area. Now, I thought this was an incredible story. It's a visual story. You kind of got to watch it, but I'll give you a little bit of a play-by-play here. So this is about modern sanitation. And we do know that the way we process water, all this kind of stuff needs to be changed. We know that in our regular drinking water, it is literally being poisoned. And so this was kind of an interesting behind the scenes. She gave us this whole tour of what it's like. So this is like drainage, water that would be like in gutters and things like that. And so she gave us a tour of this plant, and there's like all these different, I don't even know what to call them, compartments, receptacles, areas that are part of this treatment plant. And the water goes through all of these different sections, and the grit ends up going to the bottom, and then that grit goes to the landfill, and it just goes through all these different processes. But nothing artificial is being added. That's one of the things that I noticed about this story that I thought was really important to mention. But it would go into these different containers, these large containers, and then the water would kind of swirl around, and just the movement of the water would do the separation for them. So you would have like oil and grease and stuff like that come to the top, and that would have to be swept off. And then, like I said, the grit goes down to the bottom. And so I got a little bit of an education on how all this happens. Now, Where does it go afterward? We didn't really talk about this in the report, but it is introduced back into the environment. So it is really important that we know what happens to the water in these facilities. Because even if it's going back, and let's say it's being used by farmers to water plants. Okay, someone could be like, oh, it doesn't have to be great water because of that. Well, yeah, it kind of does, because the water goes in the plants and then the people eat the plants, So we really need to be mindful of this. But that was a really interesting report from Amy. Our second story comes from Candace. And I pronounce this Missouri. But in Candace's story, she says Missouri. So there you go. Candace from Missouri. This is it's basically an update from a horrible tornado that went through Joplin, Missouri. And Candace is updating us on the rebuilding process of all of that. Now, this happened a while ago, and I have to apologize. On the news, one of the teasers that we ran, I said it was 5 years ago. That's incorrect. It was actually 12 years ago, but I think I got the numbers mixed up because it was a Category 5 tornado. And this hit in late May of 2011. And according to Candace, this was on the ground for 13 miles. And she basically goes through in the video and shows us the different areas of town that were impacted and tells us, kind of an update on these areas. So apparently there were 30 churches that were swept off their foundation, including Candace's. Their high school was destroyed. In fact, this is very tragic, but I believe she said 8 high school students were killed as part of this tornado. This was a really big deal. Thousands of homes were destroyed. They ended up planting, she said, over 1,000 new trees, which was great. They have a new public library now. And her whole point in doing this story is to show you we can rebuild after disaster. And I kind of feel like that's where we are now, just with our whole planet, because we're kind of in disaster mode right now. But the future is very bright and beautiful, and we have this incredible opportunity to not just rebuild. We don't want to just rebuild what was, destroyed. We want to make it better, and we want to live life in a more fulfilled way. So I kind of feel like we were hit by a tornado. In general, humanity was hit by a tornado, and now it's time to rebuild. And speaking of rebuilding, now it's time for our New Earth segment. So this is a segment, I love this, probably my favorite part in the show, where we get you excited about the stuff that's to come. We want to inspire you. We want you to hear examples of people that are doing incredible things, because we have this huge task on our plate now. And that is, again, to make our planet what it should have always been, to restore it to its natural blueprint, to figure out how to live not just harmoniously with other humans, but other organic beings that are here. There's a lot that we need to do. And it can kind of seem overwhelming. So we're going to start to tell you on the news about different things and hopefully inspire you and get you thinking about what role you play in all of this. So one of the things that we have been talking about recently is human trafficking. And everybody knows, probably that's listening to this, that this is a worldwide problem. It is a huge problem. It is right up there with the drug trade, and it has to go away. When we talk about sovereignty, right? Your ability to control yourself and make your own decisions without outside influence. Well, anyone who is being trafficked is not able to be completely sovereign, which is why we're talking about this now. Not only does human trafficking have to go away, but this is an infringement on their sovereignty. And this segment that we do is with Ludi Green, and she happens to be a personal friend of mine, but she is very much involved in helping families. So whether that's helping moms and even dads through domestic abuse situations, also human trafficking. And today we talk about how people get caught up in human trafficking, because we have to see the warning signs. A lot of the people out there don't know anything about what I'm talking about right now. They have no idea that our planet is transitioning, that we have gone from a dark age to a light age, and they may be, a potential victim of human trafficking down the road. And so we need to know what these warning signs are. So not only can we rid our planet of this horrible way that people make money, elites make money, and not just elites, but, it's just a horrible thing that we have to get rid of. But that we also empower other people to, learn more about the indicators of this so we can just nip this whole thing in the bud. And that's what my conversation with Ludi was about. So it's about a 5-minute interview. And one of the questions that I asked her, I thought this was kind of interesting. We talked about how people get into this, right? And she says a lot of it comes from employment opportunities. So people, in the news, we talk about this all the time. People are getting laid off, it's, maybe their wages aren't what they should be. So everyone's looking for better employment opportunities. And there's people that get kind of caught up by accepting an employment opportunity, going overseas, whatever, maybe not having the proper documentation. And then what was promised to them doesn't happen. And they basically become a slave to people. And they aren't given, let's say maybe it's insurance they were promised or whatever, their wage wasn't promised, and they're kind of stuck. So I thought that was interesting. I haven't heard a lot about employment being one of the reasons that people get caught up in human trafficking. We hear the horrible things with children and, even adults, but that was a different element to it. So I encourage you guys to check out that interview because we talk about a lot of stuff. A few other stories I wanted to mention. We talk about people recovering from different addictions. Now, if you just listen to mainstream media, they aren't very uplifting when it comes to addiction recovery. We kind of have this idea that once you're an addict, you're always an addict. But the people that have been impacted by this, whether you yourself have had some sort of an addiction or you love someone who has had an addiction, those people know that that's not the truth, right? And that's what this story is about. It's about people recovering and leading very happy lives. And those success stories are more common than we are led to believe. There are more treatment centers. There are more programs out there. A stat that we gave is that 75% of people that are serious about it achieve full remission. Now, that's not to say this is a walk in the park, and it's not to say that that's going to happen on their first go-around. There may be relapses. There may be several relapses, and someone might look at that and be like, see, I told you, they can't be rehabilitated. They can't be helped. And that's simply not true. I mean, humanity has been beaten down so bad. And I said this on the news today. We are so resilient. And if given the proper resources, we can overcome anything. And this is just a testament to that. So there you go. Next story is about, speaking of resiliency, resilient redwoods. So I'm talking about the trees, okay? We talk about how redwoods respond to fires by tapping into their deep-rooted energy reserves. This is incredible. So we have found that even weeks after some sort of a forest fire or wildfire, something like that, that for redwoods, new growth is found within a couple weeks under these scorched trunks of theirs. Even when sunlight is blocked, you've got smoke from the fire or whatever, it doesn't matter. There is still new growth. And what they found is that these sprouts were powered by sugar that was produced during photosynthesis more than 2 decades ago. So these redwoods are holding this sugar, basically, which is energy for them, right? And it's kind of like they're holding on to it for a rainy day. And then when they really need it, again, maybe 2 decades later, they're able to utilize this. In fact, they also found the carbon that is found in the sugars was more than 60 years old. So, yeah, these trees are absolutely incredible what they can do. Just like humans are incredible in what we can do, right? And our final story from the New Earth segment in today's newscast is about elephant hospitals. And this is just a really beautiful story. So in India and Thailand, they have built animal hospitals. The one in Thailand, I know, was built in 1993, so this is not a brand new thing. But again, we're giving you guys ideas, right? And how you might be able to help as we transition and, build a better earth and a better world for us and our children. And so they have these hospitals, and it basically provides a safe haven to injured, sick, and elderly elephants. Say that 5 times fast. Elderly elephants, or elephants who have been abused. And so far, they've helped about 4,000 elephants. They've been, treating them. And they do all sorts of things. One of the things they can provide is artificial limbs. So let's say, as a result of poaching or something like that, an elephant comes in and they don't have, one of their, what is it called? I guess a leg. Let's just call it a leg, a stump, whatever. They can provide an artificial limb for that. And they can also do other things like things that we would expect in a regular hospital for humans, like x-rays, thermal imaging. They have ultrasound machines, hydrotherapy pools, pathology labs, and even quarantine facilities. So if there is an animal that is, injured, sick, whatever, that needs to be away from the other animals, they can do that too. It's incredible. All right, let's talk about our regional news. So this is news that impacts the people from all around the world. And I have 4 stories for you guys today. The first one is about Kenya in Africa, and they are scrapping their visa program, right? So a visa that you would need in order to get into the country. So starting in January, so this is like brand new at the start of the year, so coming up next month, they are going to scrap their visa program. Now, they are going to have something in place. They are calling this an electronic travel authorization, and they didn't really elaborate on what that is. But apparently it's a little bit different, and this is all being done through a new digital platform. And then the whole idea behind this is to reduce the bureaucracy. Apparently, when you have visas and when you're working with visas, it is a structured program that's been around for a long time. So I can only imagine the red tape behind that, right? And what they're realizing is, we need to get people in here as quickly as possible because, tourism is suffering. Everybody's economy is suffering. And so that's the reason behind it. So they are stepping up and officially scrapping their visa program. In South Africa, South African businesses are trialing a 4-day work week. And I can hear now everyone's going, yes, a 4-day work week. And they're having success with this. So overall, the businesses are giving it a rating of 8 out of 10 right now, with 92% of the businesses that are trialing it planning to continue with it. Now, from the employee side, employees are so happy with it that they said they now want a 21 to 50% pay raise to continue with 5 days. So they're saying, yeah, we're not going back to 5 days. And if you make us, we need to be paid 21 to 50% more. In fact, 13% said they would not return to 5 days. They'd quit or they would just refuse, right? And some of the good things that they're finding with this is they have seen a over 10% increase in company revenue during this time and 48% increase in productivity. So the two kind of go hand in hand usually, right? In addition to that, the employees' well-being has improved. There has been reduced resignations, less absenteeism, decreased work stress. We've heard this numerous times, not necessarily with this trial, but with people, changing work habits, really thinking creatively and outside the box of, do we really have to have a 40-hour work week? Is anyone really productive in a 40-hour work week? Because that's part of the slave system, right? It really is. That keeps us so focused on work that we don't have time to do the things in life that really make us happy, the things that raise the vibration of the planet. And that was by design. So we have to rethink all of this and be like, how can we because we all have to be productive members of society. And I truly do believe that once humanity is no longer mentally a slave, because there's still many people that are unconscious to everything that I'm talking about right now, right? But once we wake up and realize that there is a better way of doing this, and you don't have to stay a slave to this false matrix out there that's been controlling our lives for a very long time, I think when you take away issues like having people to worry about healthcare, worry about their job, worry about their family, worry about education and things like that, you're going to take away a lot of the things that make humans not so happy, right? And not so productive because we're constantly worried and frustrated and all this kind of stuff. So definitely looking at our work week is really important. We need to be productive. And I think we all naturally want that, assuming we're not freaked out about everything else. But 40 hours, come on, there's a better way to do it, right? And South Africa is definitely on the right track. We ran a story about Canada and a new dental plan that I'm very skeptical of. I'll tell you a little bit about. So this is a plan from the government. And, here in the U.S., we called that Affordable Care, the Affordable Care Act. So in Canada, this is a plan for low and middle income families. It is called the Canadian Dental Care Plan, or CDCP. And the information that we gave on the news is really just kind of an introductory to this plan and gives a bit more information about who's impacted by it. So you do have to earn less than $90,000 per year. You must have filed a tax return for the previous year, right? Because they got to get you on taxes, and have no other access to any other dental insurance. If you do, you're ineligible. So the application process begins this month, and that initially is going to be for seniors 87 years and older, and then they'll start to reduce that. Obviously, they want to get the people in who are older and may need more care in the beginning, and then that will change. And I believe they said the application will switch to online here in the near future as well. But don't hold your breath, guys. Anything that the government does is probably not in your best interest. But we are seeing this come out of Canada now for dental, not all medical, just dental. And our final story is about a huge legal defeat for Google that also has some implications for Apple. So Google had a verdict, and they were implicated in anti-competitive practices. And it's something that Apple is doing as well. So even though this particular case involves Google, the outcome is going to affect Apple as well. So what happens is, and you guys may already be aware of this, but both companies charge a 30% fee on any in-app purchases, which that money is usually passed on. Those fees, I should say, are usually passed on to the consumers. And they're calling this an app tax. So the elimination of an app tax, because again, this is considered now anti-competitive practices, the elimination of that could do some good things for consumers. It could reduce app prices. It could give us better quality apps. It could increase the selection you have for apps, right? There's less fees associated with it, so more people kind of throw their hat in the ring. So overall, I think it's a good thing for consumers. And apparently, Google and Apple have taken note because they are already starting to adjust their policies. And now it's time for the World Situation Report. So Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian was on the show today. She usually is, but unless she's running around, taking down the deep state, which does happen. She does that a lot, actually. But usually she makes it into the news. She'll kind of slide in last minute. And so today she was on the show. And, some of this, the deep state never seems to learn. They keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different result. And as we know, that is insanity, right? And that is kind of where we're at with them right now. They want Kim, who is the trustee of the Global Repository, which is how money comes into the financial system. They want her to pay for all their evil deep state plans. But Kim is not going to do that. That's not her role. Kim is of the light. She has no interest in helping them with their wars and helping them with their famine and helping them spread fake and, real health issues around this country, around the world. We have no interest in that. We are about the restoration of our planet and helping humanity. Still, they think that they can, send people in and try to convince Kim to do certain things. So that's kind of how the World Situation Report started out today. Kim shared some stories with us, which I'm not going to include the sound bites of that, but they basically want Kim to pay for all of their evil, like Dr. Evil deep state plans, like Agenda 2030 and all that good stuff. I say good, but I don't really mean good stuff. All of their crazy antics, right? But I did want to talk about a group that we've mentioned before on the show. We haven't talked about them in a while, and it's about time for an update. And I'm referring to the Silent Circle. That is not their real name. That is what we refer to them on the show as, to protect identities and things like that. But they are a group of business people, and these are families of business people. They have a lot of money. And these are companies you indeed would have heard of before. And we've talked to them and about them in the past because I feel like they're a little back and forth when it comes to the restoration. They have worked with the deep state before. They have done things on behalf of the deep state before. It's not necessarily a red flag because we were in a dark age and that's just how things were done. But we have said before, we are wiping the slate clean. So anyone now that is willing to move forward with us, we'll take all the help we can get. Restoring a planet is no easy task, and we can certainly do it. But if we had people to help us with that already had experience in certain areas, it would go a lot smoother, right? And the Silent Circle is a group that we've pointed to in the past to say they could do a lot of good. Have they done bad stuff in the past? Yeah, they have. But we're wiping the slate clean. So if they want to work with us moving forward, we can do a lot of great things. And we haven't talked about them in a while. So Kim provides an update today. Take a listen.
The Silent Circle is an interesting group because you do have a multitude of families and those types of things and business owners and that are all part of this group. But there are some, the reason why we haven't heard a lot from them and they've kind of just laid in neutral mode to some degree is because there are some that do not want to move forward with us.
Okay.
Now, we found out this morning as to why they didn't want to move forward with us. These particular families, namely the ones in Italy, were told that I would not make good on my dollar deal. And that, meaning, you remember the dollar deal I talked about before? Okay, just to refresh your memory.
Right.
It was in cooperation with the Silent Circle and all their businesses. And of course, all of the deep state's failing businesses where they would go in, take them over. I would provide funding. We would fix the companies and change the products that they manufacture and the ingredients that they put in these products so that they wouldn't be harmful to humanity.
Right.
And so we were moving right along a few months ago with that dollar deal until there was a conflict amongst them. And then it's, well, okay, so we're not going to bother her, but I found out why. So the Order of the Dragon had basically convinced the 5 families from Italy that that number 1, I would never make good on my word. Number 2, which is also a lie because I had been following along with everything and offered everything. So my word is always good. So if I make a promise, it might take me a couple years to fulfill it. It might take me a day and it might take me 10 years in some instances, but I will make good on that promise as soon as I'm able to. Mm-hmm. So that's why I never give dates and times and funding things and all of this type of stuff. So they were also told by the Order of the Dragon that the Order of the Dragon is still in charge and that they are still talking to the aliens.
Here we go.
And they're still getting orders from the aliens. Mm-hmm. And so they thought, for some reason unknown, that, they had no way to verify whether or not that was true, that there was still a higher force on this planet that could, let's just say, cause consequences to the Silent Circle group. So For some reason, they believed them, and that's why they kind of backed off. Well, me and having conversations telling these people that most of these others are dead, they're not here anymore, there's nobody over there to communicate with, left them with some questions in their mind. And so they had done a little bit of research. They had been in contact with the archivists, which they have access to. They had checked some of their other records as well. They had the ability to go walk into what used to be underneath the Vatican to see if that was still there. They also checked some other communication portals that they have access to. And they have determined what I have been saying all along is true. That they are not in charge, that their contract with the Line of Solomon was over, there was no extension granted, and they went berserk.
The Silent Circle went berserk.
Well, not the whole Silent Circle, because a good portion of them believed me from the start. It was just these few families that didn't.
Yeah.
So they started calling up the Order of the Red Dragon in Russia, because remember, they're heavily invested. They started calling up the Chinese. They started calling up the Rothschilds, and they had let them have it. Because they've been spending a lot of money doing a lot of different things. Now, they were limited in what they could do without violating the rules with the Silent Circle. But they still, to some degree, were perpetuating this lie and waiting for a day ending in Y when they were going to get their money back. So I had also explained to this person on this lovely phone that the governments were pretty much going to go bankrupt. There would be no funding for governments at this point. Nobody's really listening, so I'm preparing for a world where they don't exist anymore. Now, remember, way back in the day when Trump was still in office, when I stopped funding the U.S. government, they borrowed almost $900 billion from the Silent Circle's various groups. So they're owed money. And they just found out that their $900 billion investment is never going to pay out as long as they're still following this other agenda. Now, there's also a lot of arms floating around all over the place over there, you know, that have not been paid for in Israel and in Gaza, in Jordan. There's a lot of things happening all over the world, which has put them into a great loss type situation. Now, they still collectively as a group have a lot of money, but not enough to help every government in the world to survive. Like, not even close. You know, they're, you know, big companies are out there, but, and some of them you would probably know, like Fiat is one of them. It's a car manufacturer. Yeah. And a lot of other big names, but they have basically figured out that what I've been telling them is true, which is good, because now we could possibly see in the next couple of days a lot more movement from the Silent Circle than we've seen in a while. So this is a positive thing for us. Next, they then proceeded to call Langley Five, the generals of Langley, and the operatives, and have a call with these people and said, did you know this? You know, like, this is true. They are never going to pay us out. They're never going to do this. They're never going to do that. Now, this conversation was ongoing at the time I jumped on the news. So I don't have the end result of this conversation yet. Okay. I do not know if it started leaking into the remaining few that have been walking around with the secret space program. How this will affect the Trump operatives, I'm not sure. The only thing I knew in the background coming from a bunch of operatives was a bunch of words, 4 letters that began with F, and another other 4-letter words that began with S. And so ones I can't say on the news. Sonny won't let me. No, I'm just kidding. But there's a lot of changes going on right now. So this big thing that they're waiting for, you know, on the 15th and then again on Christmas, they've come to the realization that this probably is never going to happen. And that they've, in the words of the Arkansas general, who also tried to tell them, you have hitched your horse to the wrong wagon.
Yeah. Can you imagine having to owe the Silent Circle billions and hundreds of billions of dollars? So I would not want to be the deep state right now when the silent circle says, what, you never meant to pay us back? And that's what's setting in right now. In the past, they've stayed kind of neutral in this. I know they wanted to see who was going to come out on top. Is the dark going to win? Is the light going to win? And they are probably just going to join whatever team won. But they are seeing things a little bit differently now, which is good for us because they can really help with restoration. So let's see what happens. As of doing the news, these conversations were still going on and we didn't have a complete picture of what the silent circle was going to do. So maybe we'll have an update on Friday and hopefully things will move forward faster. Again, I would not want to be on their you-know-what list. Like that would not be fun. So I do not envy the deep state. Let's talk about something more uplifting. Let's talk about love. Aw, love. So in our last newscast, as well as the podcast that went along with it, Kim put out a call and said, hey, we have a lot over the next 2 weeks. We have a lot of positive energy coming from Source right now, or God, creator of the universe. A lot of light energy is coming into this planet right now. And us being light beings, light workers, whatever you want to call us, people that are anchoring the light here on this planet now, we need to do everything we possibly can to exude love. It doesn't matter how you do it. When you're brushing your teeth or when you're, cooking meals for your family or you're driving your car, whatever it is, there can be something that encourages you to feel love and gratitude. Those are the two highest feelings for vibration. And so we need to take this amazing gift that God has given us during this time and harness it to drive out the remaining remnants of darkness on this planet so we can do the things that we want to do. So if you haven't listened to the last podcast, go back and listen to it because Kim talks more about this and the importance of it. And we have a little bit of an update on that, as well as, we're basically seeing some cool things happen as a result of all this beautiful energy coming through right now. And it has to do with the heartbeat of Earth. Did you know that Earth has a heartbeat? Earth is actually a living organic being. It has a soul as well, believe it or not. But anything, and Kim's going to talk more about this, but anything has a vibration to it and therefore has some sort of a heartbeat. Even if it's not organic, it has some sort of heartbeat to it. So here's Kim with more.
Okay, so Earth and all matter on this planet has a heartbeat to it. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever really paid attention to a heartbeat, you have a dump, like a higher sound that happens, and then dump, which is a lower sound that happens, and then it repeats itself. And then depending on how quickly the heart is beating is how quickly it repeats itself. But it's a constant. Now, Earth also has a heartbeat. And you, other than the heart that beats in your chest, also have an energetic heartbeat. Inanimate objects, such as rocks, also have a heartbeat. And this is what helps make it matter. So let's talk about the heartbeat itself. So the heartbeat is the exchange of energy that used to happen between dark energy and light energy. Dump, 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 dump.
Oh, okay.
You see?
Yeah.
So that is what creates matter. So this was created in in an alternating current, for lack of a better term, of source and anti-source, energy, matter, essence, and all sorts of things. So what we're having happen now during this special time for the next couple of weeks is that heartbeat has changed. Now, in the world of energy, the more dark matter you have, the longer the space is, or the frequency is, between the higher dump and then dump, and then it would go dump, and then it was going to go back up again. Mm-hmm. So the more light matter you have in your body, or they say raise your vibration, that means you have more light within you than dark. So you're going to have more of the ups than you will have of the downs, so to speak, in the heartbeat. And it's going to go right back to the lighter part. This was very important in order raising your frequency and being able to connect directly to source. Okay. Now we don't have that. We have a return to crystalline time. We have a change in the heart of source no longer holds both dark and light. Mm-hmm. Two sides of source, alpha and omega. It's just alpha now. So what we're seeing is that direct connection to Earth during this time. And no longer does it have the same downward tone that happens between those sequences. And it's closing till there's no space between, to the naked ear, you probably wouldn't hear it, but it's a space between a zeptosecond.
Wow.
I know. And this is happening within you too. So this is a good thing for Earth and all Earth's inhabitants. And it's also happening throughout the multiverse. Mm-hmm. It's also happening within computers as things go away that were hidden in the shadows or hidden in dark corners. Remember, this is something, when I say computers, these are computers that span all densities and all planes throughout the alphaverse that we're concerned about. So positive changes are abound, but you actually can. This is actually how people say that, you can walk through a wall, mm-hmm. as an example. And it seems like a very hard object. It seems like you would just bang your head. Yeah. But if you knew how to adjust the rate at which those particles vibrated throughout your body, this is your matter, this is what makes up your physical vessel, to match the ones in the wall, then you could pass through it seamlessly.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, you have no idea how powerful humans are. You really don't. I mean, we had in the past, and will remember again, the amazing skills that we have. Because remember, everything is a bouncing ball of light. Yeah. Everything is. Even things that are not what you would consider amongst the living, it still has a vibration and a heartbeat. This is how you can do a lot of things. Levitation happens this way, parting of the Red Sea, anyone. I don't know if Mike Johnson will figure that out, but, but what I'm saying is you have a lot more communication with nature and things that are naturally organically formed, I should say, than you think you do.
It's beautiful, right? It's that whole concept of oneness that everything has a heartbeat. We think of our heartbeat as kind of being obviously extremely important to us as humans, because if that's not beating, you got a really big problem on your hands. But to think that everything has that, it gives us like a newfound respect for everything. Even the things like Kim said that we don't consider to be living. I'm talking into a microphone right now. I don't really consider that to be a living being with a heartbeat, but you start to have more respect for things when you start to treat it that way, right? Absolutely incredible. And we are going to learn some incredible things in the very near future. All of humanity is changing. Kim started to talk about being able to walk through walls and stuff like this. And, I grew up in the Christian faith. And I grew up knowing that there was going to come a time, because you hear about Jesus walking through walls and, doing incredible miracles and stuff. And I knew that I was going to be alive at a time when this stuff would start to happen. And this is the beginning stages. It's like we're prepping humanity for some of these incredible things that weren't really available to us. You had to be as high up as Jesus, spiritually, to be able to do this. But now things are changing on this planet, and our bodies are changing as well. Matter is changing, and when you sync up the frequencies. You can do pretty much anything you want to do. So it's such a beautiful time to be alive. So I appreciate you guys listening to today's podcast. Check out the newscast. That has a lot more content in it. And of course, you get the full situation report. That is available at unitednetwork.tv. Again, you do need to be a member if you want to access all of that. But that does give you on-demand access to all of our newscasts. Again, the complete world situation report. We do original series. We've got great health and wellness videos. So check us out, unitednetwork.tv. You can also connect with us on Telegram, and the best link for that and all links related to UNN is unitednetwork.news/connect. And I will include that link in the description below. But check that out because that does have links to our Telegram channel. So if you want to hear some of the posts and stuff that comes out in addition to the newscast, because sometimes Kim will just post some things and let us know what's going on, check that out because we would love to connect with you. This is The Rundown, and I'm Sunny Galt for United Network News, signing off.